I can't see the chat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Friday stream. I'm here with guest Youngwavy.
How's it going, everyone?
Yeah, he is behind the indie manga series Holy Arc and currently right now doing the monthly Shonen Wavy manga magazine.
Absolutely. And yeah, so again, thank you for having me. And also, I do want to commend you, and give thanks to because there's not a lot of people covering indie comics in general, but indie manga, and no one's really covering indie manga good. So thank you for having me. Thank you for always covering the space because we do need it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people who, especially nowadays, are more so inspired by manga. A lot of the youth, especially, because they're growing up mostly reading manga and not so much reading the what's coming from DC and Marvel these days. So you can see a lot of new indie comics people, a lot of their influence is leaning that direction. And some people actually want to aspire to make their work as clean as the work over in Japan and one day like go work in Japan to do like real manga overseas. So you can see how people are going that direction and also like really polishing and improving their work over time because they have high aspirations. So it's good to see people like you out there doing your own thing with it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is, it's just the current generation right now. That's what's popular right now in terms of the market. The Japanese industry is just it's a very strong infrastructure that they have there. It's very well established. That's something that is regarding our industry, and I see this a lot on social media. The comic versus manga, uh, kind of debate that's been going on for decades. But it's not even a surface level of a conversation like that because the foundation of this industry is just completely deteriorating. It's really no infrastructure, to be honest,
Mm.
uh, like the Japanese have.
Yeah, they built up the culture so well, and now that they've built it up to such a degree, they have like a real stronghold on like producing manga and like cross promoting it with different merchandising and video games and everything. And so they've built it up so that it can withstand time for a very long time, whereas it's not so much here, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree with that. And again, I don't know. We're winging this, so I can't see the chat, and I don't know where you want to go with this conversation, but um, but yeah, it's the infrastructure. That's just it's an ecosystem out there. Over here, it's very divided. It's very capitalistic, and it's very cannibalistic in terms of the results. Everyone's just kind of scrambling. You see it with the drama on the internet, on the social aspect with the creators from the the publishers, the distributors. It's a mess, and I and I
Yeah.
and I have a little bit of experience working on both sides. So just a little bit. I'm still a rookie, just like most of the people watching this, but you know, um, I have a little bit of experience, working on the American side and then Japanese side. So um, that's in terms of my career. That's kind of what I aspire to, work as is kind of work within that hybrid kind of hybrid style, hybrid format. Um, and of course, foundation being here in America, so doing American manga. But so yeah, I see a little bit of both, and I think I come from a very objective, kind of broad, kind of opinion and kind of a viewpoint.
Sure. So I guess we can start by talking a little bit about like your magazine and the plans for the magazine and why. First of all, did you want to do your own like monthly manga magazine?
Um, so it really started. I had originally I had no plans to really to a magazine. In terms of the magazine component was just the aesthetic of the first issue of the Holy Arc when I launched Holy Arc, and this is so it's very organic. It was a very organic growth in terms of expanding it. So just to kind of backtrack, before I even started up my own imprint, the Young Wavy Comics is the my own publishing kind of imprint. It's my label. Before I started that up, uh, I was preparing my submission to submit to Burning Star Comics. So I was so that I do want to again, the branding of Burning Star Comics, um, and what you stand for and what you're doing. I was basically just mimicking that, with my imprint and my kind of aesthetic. Not just that, but also traditional, American comics. Their issues were always in the golden age. Magazine issues. So the traditional anthologies, the traditional magazine format is crucial to this industry. It always has been. I think not just aesthetic wise, but just the component of telling a story on the cover and really utilizing all the space on the cover aesthetic wise is what brings readers in, and what always has brought readers in from the beginning of the golden age of comics, superhero comics. So from that imprint, Young Wavy Comics, I got approached by Coffee Comics, Muzi, uh, and he had a group of creators. He also had started his own imprint, Coffee
That's right.
Originals. So he approached me with the idea of, he saw the vision of the first issue, because the first issue had it was pretty much a soft launch of the magazine. I had the actual magazine, and you're probably gonna have to either scroll all the way down to find it or go to the Amazon page. But the I was kind of building it, but I never had the vision to expand it as fast as we did, and really bring creators on, because I knew I wasn't ready or at the point to really run it like a publisher. But that was where it all started. It was just me, kind of like a concept, and it was just going to be Holy Art for the first year, 12 issues, before I even thought of even bringing anyone else on. But he approached me right when that launched, and he said basically, he was having trouble in terms of doing a physical magazine, and that was kind of his idea, a quarterly physical magazine, and he saw that I had, you know, found a method that works using Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, and that's something that is regional. It's not, in South Africa right now in terms of the actual being able to use it, utilize that format. So I basically cracked the code, and it was a no-brainer, because it's really just it's easy. When I thought about it, it was just easy to really just start bringing people on. You might as well just start uniting, and I just jumped at it, and you know jumped in head first with issue 2. Was the It's technically the official first issue, and
Yeah,
that's just
right. Like this.
so it was a huge jump from one story to 7.
Yeah, that's a big change, but it is kind of neat seeing indie creators trying to take a crack at the monthly magazine idea, the compilation of different stories, and the idea of every month like releasing a new, like, I guess, anthology of chapters
Yes,
for each different series. And it is an interesting business model.
yes,
And it's also like kind of different the way that you're doing it, because you're selling like each individual monthly magazine compilation, whereas uh, a lot of magazines do it subscription wise primarily, because it's just easier that way, I guess. But
definitely, and and not to cut you off, but I do want to quickly just add, the one more aspect of why I wanted to start it is because I was looking at this, the space of the comic book industry. I was looking at, one of the main reasons why a lot of comics have a hard time finding a reader base and even staying within the market space because of all the upfront costs and it's just sustainably, it's hard to get past 4 issues, even past 10 issues. Your typical independent comic book in the direct market, main market, and one of the reasons behind that is because you're on the market alone. You're by yourself when you hit those shelves with your single issue. And the idea behind a United magazine is you have more time to really flesh out a reader base because you have more packaged in one product. You have more stories packaged in one product. You don't have to really, it's not as much pressure on the artist to really sustain, their reader base or trying to find their reader base if they were on the marketplace by themselves. I think being united is definitely the major strength, and of course utilizing Kindle Direct Publishing. Zero cost to really start, so there's no risk.
That's right. Yeah. And I appreciate that you're going for a no risk route because I see so many people that try to do something like this, but they do it in like, you can tell that they don't really know what they're doing because they're printing through places like Book Baby and super expensive places to print with. And, they don't have their issues planned in advance, and you can tell like it's not going to work out in the long run, and they're taking like these big swings, these big risks, and then it all falls apart super quickly because they just weren't planning it out smartly. And that's
That's
always a
right.
shame because it's not like I'm against there being an American, comic or manga magazine out there. That would be like super cool if we had something like Shonen Jump here. But the way that people go about it, they just
Yeah.
really shoot themselves in the foot sometimes. Oh, and thank you for the donation code
Oh
Melted.
yeah.
It says, I like this concept. Interesting. And hey, Dannphan.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying, and that just comes down to you know because of our industry is very behind, right? It's very behind in terms of the infrastructure, right? The infrastructure is no longer stable. So most business plans that you see, even on a mainstream level, are terrible. They're terrible, and they spend millions of dollars. You see publishers like Aftershock go out of business, distillery now, and I can't even pronounce it because that just the branding of that brand was terrible, and not to really you know kind of shit on those publishers, but bad business practices, right, and archaic methods, right. So especially for startup brands. So and I don't have it all figured out. I was winging this. I'm still winging it. I'm just looking at what does work, and I think a lot of what the Japanese market does works because it's one rooted in a lot of the fundamental um, you know ways that this medium works. So in terms of just the way they produce, the structural kind of technical aspects of how they run their industry is all things that we used to do here. Um, Now, in terms of independent like manga publishers, I see that a lot too. Start up, but they have no plan. They have no vision, and I think that was part of the major key with working with all the creators that I work with is that we have the same vision. That's one of the reasons why I reached out to you and wanted to you know bring you on and represent Burning Star Comics within the magazine. Is because we have a similar vision. We have a similar direction that we're going in, and I think that'll keep us united. And the work speaks for itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's all good. It's good that you're like, feeling it out first and focusing on building that audience and connecting with these other creators. I think that's the better way to start, as opposed to these types of people that just go headfirst into everything and then end up in a lot of debt. That's never good for anyone.
Yeah.
But and especially with indie comics,
Yep.
people get in this headspace where they think they have to spend an awful lot of money on advertising. And it is heartbreaking to hear the amount of money some of these people spend on advertising and get nothing out of it at all. And what they don't
100%.
realize is a lot of these big businesses that spend a lot of money on like ads for like Google ads or wherever they're advertising on, a lot of them have a lot of money to burn in the first place. And it doesn't matter if the ads perform well or if there's a good conversion rate, because it's just about them getting the word, you
Yep.
know?
And,
And
and
for a lot of indie comics, I think doing simple things like starting a social media page, connecting with other people, and word of mouth, things like these types of streams, I think this type of stuff does much better when it comes to building a community than just like buying out a bunch of ads do.
yes, yeah, yep. And that goes back to archaic methods, right? The industry is moving a lot faster now that, the internet and just humanity itself, culture is moving at a rapid pace. So especially when it
Mm.
comes to marketing and all the digital technology, all the new technology, new methods, something as simple as this is more effective than paying thousands of dollars putting up a YouTube video, because you got to also using social media in general is free advertisement. That is free. It's a free advertisement, platform. YouTube in general, you know, any social media you can use as free advertisement. So again, paying like ads in newspapers or paying for ads, not to say that it can't be effective, but it's an archaic, kind of business model, business method, and you got to be thinking a lot more long term and a lot more ahead, of, especially if you plan to stick around and be around. And for me, this is my life, so I'm thinking career wise. I'm thinking like this is what I'm going to be taking to my grave. So I got to think long term of what's the most effective way to navigate, and what options do we have. That's one of the reasons why Kindle Direct Publishing is typically is actually not optimized for comic books. It's optimized for novels, fiction, nonfiction books, but you can utilize this platform for manga and black and white work. I found multiple workarounds, um, and it's very effective. And I think the technology is, if we can kind of stir up enough traction, uh, but then utilizing this format to kind of build this marketplace up, this can turn into something even a lot huger than, and a lot more rewarding. Um, I think this is definitely one of the foundational kind of methods for this marketplace growing, just the indie American manga space, because everything else is, you know, it's I don't really see it.
Yeah, you might have something there. Oh, and thanks again for Code Melted. Discovered Dannphan via YouTube, then X. The game is different for sure. Also discovered others thanks to Dannphan. Yeah, it all goes back to that word of mouth that I mentioned before. People like to pay for the like Google advertising because it's hands off, because it's easier, but it's less effective. I find that everything that's hands off when it comes to advertising your work is always less effective. There's that disconnect from person to person. When they see an ad, it's not really like a person is talking to them and actually sharing with them their work, as opposed to if you have a social media account and you directly reply to somebody and you're like, oh, here's my work, what do you think, or stuff like that. When the more you interact online, the better that is for advertising, as opposed to just buying a bunch of ads. It's more time costly,
Yeah,
but it's cheaper for your wallet for sure.
absolutely. And just to also, one other component why magazines work so well is because the magazine itself is ads, it's advertisement for the actual main lines of the product line. The main product line is the volumes, and the art books and the hardcover editions. The magazine is just the anchor of that. So it's just to get readers in. There's the magazine itself is not very profitable. It's not profitable outside of the Amazon platform because I make sure that I bring the cost as low as I can bring it. Right. So I really don't want to go over 9.99, but I'm trying to find ways to bring it down lower. But um, you know, I have to, depending on the page count. I really like to have. I will definitely be expanding this year, so I would like to have, you know, roughly around 400 to 500 pages. But that drives cost up, so that means I will have to open up a secondary magazine, just to split up the roster or try some other strategy. Um, but you know, there's it's that's the fun stuff. Coming up with marketing strategies, coming up with different approaches. It's all fun because it's $0 go into it. So just to be clear for the audience, like I'm running all of this by myself in terms of all of the graphics, all of the production, putting the pages together. I'm doing that all in house. You know, I serve as the kind of the head editor, of the imprint, and I allow the creators to just focus on their work, and any you know thing they want to promote. I can add that as material within the magazine. And also a big component of this, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be asking or wondering, it's completely 100% creator owned. I'm a creator myself. I have my own stories, so I don't want rights from anyone else. I don't want your stories in terms of legally. So it's completely creator owned. This is a collaborative effort. It's not you can come and go, right? And it won't bother me because my work it's not leaving, and it's going to continue to go within the magazine. And you know what I mean? So because I own my own work, and I just own the magazine itself, but all of the work inside, completely creator owned. Um, the royalties are split. It's equally between all the creators within the magazine itself. Um, no, I don't get any higher percentage than anyone else. And then anything outside of the magazine is 100% them. I in terms of their actual royalties, um, because I would want the same. And that comes down to you know I was very inspired by not only the Japanese market pretty much runs that way for the most part, in terms of creator ownership, and the creators come first, and also Image Comics. So it's being inspired by those sources. It's I'm and being a creator myself, there's no way I can't set an example for trying to innovate creator ownership, and really represent that to its fullest.
Yeah, yeah. And it is impressive that you're organizing this like on your own and putting it all together on your own. And I gotta say, like I do like the graphic design of all the covers and everything. The way that you like put everything together, it does really take me back to like those old school Shonen Jump magazines when they were in America, and other magazines that were like it.
Oh,
I
oh
think
yeah, I'm stealing
very
it. I'm stealing
nice.
it from them. That's all my inspirations in terms of the graphic design. Is I'm looking at my favorite magazines, and looking at my favorite kind of design sense. I surround myself with nothing but books that I like, and I'm pulling from it. Within the next issue, I actually start to really innovate a lot of the design. That was a big kind of problem in the beginning, with Kindle Direct Publishing, that I had to really find ways to work around, because you can't really, with your front cover at least, just something small as this, because they're optimized for novels and books, you can't have overlapping, characters over the text, because they just won't greenlight it. They need everything
Mm.
needs to be visible. So I had to completely change around the entire trade dress, and really kind of get down an official trade dress. And within issue 5, I've updated that and added some more. paying homage to a lot of the golden age comics. So just something as small as having text bubbles on the cover and telling you a little bit about the story within that you're about to read, or making sure that just subtle things that I pay homage to, like having the kind of within the next issue, the Young Wavy Comics group will be on the top, kind of subtle, but it would be similar to like when Marvel first started up, the Marvel Comics group before when they first started their brand and changed their name to Marvel. So subtleties like that, I'm always paying homage to the OGs.
Yeah. And the fact that you're doing all this while also working on your own series Holy Arc is it's all very impressive.
Oh,
Where do you find the time?
it's on hiatus right now, and it'll be returning in April. That was the last issue, closing the final volume one out, with the chapter four. But yeah, so right now, because it is a lot of time that goes into the editing process, it's about a week, um, about a week's worth of work altogether. Um, if I just sat and did that, nothing but the editing process, which I will start to optimize my schedule to the last week of every month. That's all I do: design, editing and uploading. So that's the most effective way that I found. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's on hiatus, because I needed a backlog. I needed to start preparing, storyboarding out, get ahead, because I'm gonna need it, for sure, as I grow the roster.
Yeah, yeah. And I do have to ask because like we're doing paperbacks on like
Yeah.
the Amazon publishing. So do you have any plans for like digital releases of monthly Shonen Wavy, or
That's a good
all
question.
all physical for now?
Um, so I've been getting that question a lot, and I understand why a lot of people are we're in the digital era, we're in the digital age, but for me, as a startup kind of publishing company, I don't want is digital to cannibalize the physical, you know
Hmm.
copies in terms of sales, and just reader kind of, um, what's the word? I want them to get accustomed to reading it physically. That's the main, that I don't want to get the main core audience accustomed to reading the work digitally. So I've only been focused on physicals for this entire first year. 2026, only physical will I'll be focused on, and building the catalog, physical catalog. And then digital is something on the back burner that we can always come up, come back to. Um, Maybe digital previews for the most part, but I don't want to, you know, s- try and spread, kind of spread myself too thin too early, right? So by attacking different, because digital is an entirely different market in itself, right? So focusing on one market at a time, and building the foundation in physical, and then slowly, as we have a catalog, then we can, okay, here's some digital work, to get you into the catalog of work that is physical, and then it'll ricochet back and be a ripple effect on the physical sales, and so on. I think that'll be the best approach.
Yeah, yeah, I can respect that. People have varying opinions on the whole digital versus physical, debacle. But I do know, I do miss back in the day the Shonen Jump magazines when they were released in America by Viz. They were all physical, and you could get the
Yeah.
subscription, same as what they had in Japan. But eventually, they did reel back on that, and now I don't believe they're publishing the magazines in print anymore. I think they just moved on to like having it be an
Yep.
app you pay a subscription for, like the
Yep.
Shonen Jump app,
Yep.
which is, cheaper in the long run, but you gotta, you always have to ask that question. Was it because it wasn't doing well, or was it just because they wanted to save some money?
It,
And
it it's a mix of both. It's because the major key difference, it's because that Shonen Jump magazine was, an American kind of exclusive, just reprint of their traditional material. So, they were testing the marketplace out here, trying to build it. This is separate from the domestic market. So the domestic market, that's the model, and it's always been that way. It's still to this day. The physical is the foundation, and the digital sells the physical. And that's what I'm trying to mimic, is by building that physical foundation, and then use the digital to, just get readers in, use it as marketing, use it as a jumping on point, and instead of a main business model, which is very, as we all know, is less sustainable in terms of actually making a living, less sustainable in terms of profiting off of digital. It's less connection to the readers itself. Um, from my own personal experience and what I see is like, it's you can't really it's going to be hard to really sell this new generation on digital when they're used to getting everything digital free for the most part,
Mm.
and then especially pirating here, um, which is, a whole other conversation. But I want to bring it back to the roots, and really build the connection of, hey, you have this book on your bookshelf, so that means that it's in your memory, it's in your own, actual possession. So you can always come back and forth. Whether you buy this issue, then 6 months later, it reminds you of, oh, wait, now I can go back and see what the catalog's looking like now. And then you can, kind of go back and rebuild the catalog. But if you're just digital, you got TikTok, you got millions of other things that's on your digital platforms that you just forget. You just forget. It's like, then you have your real life and all this other, stuff. So I really, just physical for me is core.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's all fair. I mean, I do both, right? Because I always keep up with the Manga Plus app for like all the series that are ongoing. Because it'll be a while before the physical actually drops, and you gotta find out what happens next. You can't be behind.
Yeah,
But
definitely, and I get that too. It just comes down to, like, our marketplace is built up a lot different. So it's gonna take some time to really build up, American manga physically, and then,
yeah,
because we're used to digital because it's all foreign work. So, you know, the physicals are, we never get that first, right? So it's just, that's another obstacle. But I'm definitely, I'm not against digital though. It's just, one step at a time type of deal.
yeah, that's all fair. Going forward, are you gonna like continue going forward with the monthly magazine, or do you see this as just kind of a jumping off point to help everybody independently sell their own series, or do you want to like go all in on the monthly magazine?
I'm going all in, but not all in at, in terms of right now.
Sure.
It's still a small imprint, so it's just an imprint right now. So in terms of all in terms of commitment, I am all in terms of committed to my imprint, and wherever my career goes, my imprint goes. So it's tied to me directly. So, my team, everyone, that's, connected to it. It's I'm building a family, a business, not just a business studio, but I want to mimic that kind of, well, not just a business, but I want to mimic that studio kind of family, aesthetic, back in the traditional comic book days, back in the golden, industry days. So that's what I'm trying to build. But yes, so my plan is to, it's independent now. But as I advance, I'm working towards serialization. I'm very close to achieving that with Kodansha. So, as once I achieve that, then I think that will be able to catapult my own, imprint, the magazine, anything else I've attached to that in terms of independent kind of, studio. And I'm mimicking, um, your traditional comic book imprint, that you would see at an Image Comics in terms of attaching yourself to a larger brand. And in this case, I would be attaching myself to a Kodansha. um, not directly, officially at first in terms of them publishing the magazine, but through my work being published, the magazine, I can slowly build that up and myself even self-fund it and then slowly build it up along with the team. And, you know, Akira Toriyama, RIP to him. Bird Studios was his label, his studio. Imagine if he had his own magazine. That's kind of what I'm, Katara Miura, RIP to him. Studio Gaga. Imagine if he had his own magazine, right? Where he published his assistants and all of his team, published through it independently or through a larger publisher that they're attached to. That's what I'm trying to mimic here. So it'll always be, with me. It's gonna stay going.
Yeah, that's a nice thought.
And
It's
just to add to that real quick, and
good.
so within this issue in particular, um, publishing it as I'm doing now independently, anything I work on that I own, I can just repurpose and reprint it. Just like, so I published not only Holy Ark, but my own first, not first one shot, but my first Kodansha one shot that I submitted and worked with an editor at Shonen Serious, Guardian Reborn, Cursed Crucifixion. I republished that in this issue, and you can read it within that issue. So anything I'm doing, over terms of Japan, in terms of one shots, I can just republish it in the magazine. So it's directly connected. Anything I do that I own.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I think a lot of indie creators out there, one of the things that they struggle with is establishing a certain amount of legitimacy. And sometimes the way that you establish that is by like doing those like kind of collaborations with other big names, or by just, proving
Doing
that
the
you're
work.
talented, like getting your work out there and just
Yep.
showing like how good it is. And that's enough for a lot of people to be like, oh, this person is legit.
Yeah, and again, I'm still a rookie, but that's true. That you have to, your work has to speak for itself. You have a lot of artists
Mhm.
that are mascots. That's one of the reasons, why I pulled away from, one YouTube, is because I started to become a YouTuber and I didn't want to do that, and no shades to people that want to, do the, YouTube, or they use it as marketing, or they just use it, you know what I mean? So you have your channel, so I'm not throwing any shade, but for me,
It's
it was
difficult.
more of a,
It's really
yeah, it's
difficult.
difficult. It's difficult. And for me, I saw a trend of creators um, kind of posting themselves, kind of, or not, they're being a mascot that's for their series and their characters, but it's not supposed to be about you. And you see this in the mainstream market as well. It's supposed to be about your character and the story itself. So no wonder your story isn't selling to, a lot of the mainstream, social media artists. It's because they're taking the Hollywood aesthetic and they're kind of propping themselves up more than they're actually trying to prop their work and their characters up. And and sales kind of reflect that, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It is so true amongst indie comics, especially. A lot of people selling based on like their personality, and you like me, so therefore you would like my story. And
Okay.
I guess it does work to some extent, but if you want a really like loyal fan base who
Yeah.
genuinely is going to be posting about your characters and genuinely like posting about the story, you got to actually make them feel attached to that rather than just attached to you as a person.
And that's what stands the test of time, right? So
Mhm.
RIP again, to Akira Toriyama, right? Akira Toriyama's characters connect with the readers, right? So he doesn't need to be on social media. And 90% of the manga artists and big time name creators, you don't, and even artists in general, on a world standpoint, you don't remember what they look like. You remember their art. You remember what their work says, and your work always speaks for itself, and it should always speak for itself. So I think artists need to go back to that, and that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of people panicking with AI and all this other crap. Is because your work doesn't have anything to say, and your panic kind of reflects that. Because for me, as someone that's not worried or looks at any of that, because I know what my work says and I know what my work represents, and it's in the work. So none of that outside, you know, none of that stuff can phase or even touch my work, and shouldn't be able to touch anybody's work if it speaks for itself.
Yeah. And with the whole AI thing, people don't view it as valuable. That's the main thing. They view it as something that should always be free because it didn't require any work to make. So it doesn't have that value to it.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother conversation, but I don't pay attention to it just to kind of, you know what I mean? So, because it's just doom and gloom, and it's like, all right, so if your work represents more than your you know your social media persona, or your kind of whatever, their aesthetic or whatever they're trying to portray. If your work represents something pure, represents change, represents something that can help, um, you know, the readers, help, society in terms of actually what, the tradition of just what art is founded on, you know, and can actually help, the human experience by telling stories and conveying it. Nothing can touch it because it's just pure. That's pure human connection, and that's what it is about. That's what art is about at its core. So I think, you know, a lot of artists have just fallen away from that. So now you see them panicking and crashing out on social media, and it's like for the smallest things, AI is nothing, right? So
Mm.
digital, none of that is nothing. Big corporations are nothing compared to the people and what the art is and what the craft can actually do. And I'm trying to go back to that, and that's the whole part of Mana United. And I think that's one of the reasons why artists need to be united, and really have a whole new united front and really rechange, re-grab the actual culture itself of what this medium is.
Yeah, totally agree. I would love to see more projects like this where artists are collaborating together and like working together instead of all this, random YouTube drama where artists are like attacking each other and like trying to boost somebody up by like having some drama with somebody else. All
and
of that
and
is
that's why I
just
love
such
Burning Star,
nonsense.
and that's why I love Burning Star Comics because it represents that, and I, it inspired me before, like I said, before I even started my own label. I was, typing out my submission, right, and then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should start to build up my own legs so I'm not a liability or pressure on, because I started to see a lot of indie. I think it is important that all creators kind of start building themselves up. And what do you contribute to? It's better that we all build our brands and just collaborate and keep our brands like that. And it symbolizes unification. So, again, you know, Burning Star Comics is very inspiring, and the symbolization behind Burning Star is very inspirational. Um, and yeah, that's what we're about.
Well, thank you. Very, very kind of you to say. Oh, Brian was also saying, can agree with that. When it comes to any kind of storytelling, the characters and their stories will always be the things people are drawn to first. Absolutely.
That's right.
That's why you really gotta impress people out there with your stuff. It's a lot of pressure, but
Definitely. I'm gonna try and even with this, you know hopefully this is the first of many in terms of interview slash discussions, as because I think not only in print format, but we definitely have to expand on, um, really. I think this is a crucial aspect of, like, reshaping the course of this, building this market, but even just the comic book market in itself. Is we need more voices vocal, not just in the work, but also on social media platforms to a certain extent. Not to be a superstar celebrity, but to actually, teach the culture, and actually give a lot of insight to the young, kind of generation coming up, and of course our current generation, because we're both still young, but the kids coming up that have no clue at all, that just have the star eyes, and the fanboy kind of you know you know mentality, personality. So this it's very important that these discussions.
Yeah, yeah. And the one of the most important ways that like readers can help whenever they, whenever you guys out there watching read something that you really enjoy and want to see succeed, the best you can do is, go online, write a review about it, or share some art from it, or make your own fan art from it. Even if you can't draw, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you're like being a voice that is helping to spread something that you enjoy. And I think people underestimate how far that goes. That's how anything ever gets discovered, is people talking about it. That does
Yeah.
so much more than
and,
paid advertising. It's
and
crazy.
I'm glad you said that, because that brought back something I was thinking about a lot. Lately is we need more journalism. Where's the art form of journalism, especially comics journalism, has dwindled and is non-existent now. We need more and more free press. Startup press lines, startup journalism. So readers, start your own press line, start your own journalism blog series, start up your own brand, and really talk about this stuff. Bring back the craft of journalism, bring back the craft of the article. You know what I mean? So bring them back. So we need it, especially for if we're going to build up American manga, and just to clarify, American manga is just, it can be from anywhere. Honestly, the culture of America is rooted in just people, and it can be from any culture. So when I say American manga, it doesn't mean you have to be from America. You can be from any part of the world. I work with creators from all over the world. It's more of it's more of a what you represent, in terms of value, which is freedom to the people, and inspiration. So, but we need more people to talk about this in this kind of sector of the industry. Trying as we build it up, we need more people. So the readers, start up your own website, start up your own blogs. Even if you're not getting paid, start it up, start talking about it, and that'll help.
Yeah,
Authentic.
I'd love to see more comic and manga reviewers on YouTube. There's a lot of people that I used to follow who did them all the time, and they had like, fan bases, not giant fan bases, granted, but they had people that were consistently watching them, and eventually they would just, I don't know, get burnout, or they weren't satisfied with the view count or whatever it
No,
was, and they
no,
all
that's what it
leave.
is.
And yeah, we need more people to like rise up and I guess uh t- take the spot that somebody else left. You go out there and now you start making your own manga and comic reviews. It can't just be me, guys. You all have to do it now.
And it's very easy. We have the resources. I'm using my smartphone right now. That's really all you need. It's in your pocket, so you can, if you really want to and have the drive. Um, you know, that's something, not just in this market alone, just comic book market in itself. We need more artists, more writers. We need more creators, more journalism. We need more of everything. That's the only way we're gonna bring readers back, is by saturating the market, and then allowing that saturation to grow, as in terms of quality, through time, and but we need more.
Absolutely. We got a donation from Mini Shred, author of Final Fantasy. Oh, fine. Sorry.
Final
Final
Fawcett.
falsehood at video games. What can I say? Thank you, Dannphan, for supporting us so early on, and I look forward to this partnership. It sounds awesome. Thank you.
That's
I
Chris.
do. I have been enjoying Final Falsehood.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah. I
have
knew,
been
I knew
reading
you
it,
would.
just for the
I knew you
record,
would.
everybody. I'm not completely ignorant.
No, that's a great work. Final Fawcett is very, it's definitely, but then your vein of work in terms of fantasy, and dark fantasy. And would you say isekai were in terms of Reaper?
What was that?
Would you say like Reaper is in terms of describing the genre, not just dark fantasy, fantasy of course, but would you say is it an isekai? Are you trying to kind of achieve that?
I wouldn't say isekai. When I think isekai, I usually think like in another world, someone gets like thrown into another world type
Okay.
of genre. But yeah, a little bit like dark fantasy, and I guess a blend of dark fantasy and high fantasy, because it is like all about the journey and all about the adventure. And I can see why you might think isekai, because I one of the critiques I got was that it felt a little bit video gamey. Maybe that's just where my inspirations come from sometimes.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely in some aspects, like it doesn't. It's not like heavy, but it's kind of like it. You see a lot of those elements within isekai work, in terms of fantasy in general. Like that's just isekai is a just a subgenre in fantasy. You know what I mean? So for the most part, but definitely I get you in terms of. So I say that to say that you're definitely in terms of just the works in terms of why you resonate with Final Falsehood, it's because it has those kind of similarities, for sure. It's a great work.
Yeah. In general, I'm a pretty big fantasy fan, so I like to see other people also, doing their own spin on the fantasy genre and
And we
seeing,
need it,
well, what's your take on it? What's your world like? That's all fun stuff for me.
and we need it. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to start with Reaper and you know um, and really get it within the magazine. So I'll update you on that. But that's the reason. The magazine itself is a science fiction, fantasy, magazine. I that's that's all I'm looking and interested in kind of really publishing and working with, is because those are the stories that you can really be free and question reality itself. And I love stories that depict different iterations of reality, question it, and not so much a carbon copy of it. But that's kind of my sweet spot. I love fantasy. I love science fiction. So that's all I'm interested in.
Yeah, totally, totally. The best genres.
So it fits
Only
perfect.
the best for monthly Shonen Wavy then. It is a little bit funny because Coffee Comics, the one who's doing Bloody Hell on the magazine, he also
Yes.
does the comic reviews on his channel. Like I was talking about, everyone should just
Yeah.
be doing reviews. It's good stuff.
And he
He did a
also
review
did.
on Reaper. He did
Yes.
not like
Well,
it. It's
you know,
okay. It's all right. I do think some of his critiques were very like bullseye, like he got me, like that wasn't that good.
well,
But
I definitely would. Definitely don't take it to heart, But he's also Bloody Hell. While we're on the topic, is also a dark fantasy. So that's we got a couple of them, or a handful of them, some more coming. But regarding Reaper, like I was telling you before the live, is um, don't be too hard on yourself, because it's professional quality, it's professional work, and you had told me that you were thinking about backtracking and kind of editing volume 1. I always say just keep going, because volume 1 of Holy Art, my own work, is incomplete. It's not even, and I
mm,
wrote about it within the back of the manga, and within the author's page. It's incomplete, but it's completed, and it's something I can look at to improve upon within the next volume, and it's enough. Right, so we need more completed works and just really getting out works, building the catalog, and then you don't want to stay caught in one capsule at a time. And I get it, because it's perfection and kind of, but you don't want to stunt yourself. You want to just I want to see where the story goes, and how it improves. And I think that's a very organic aspect of comics that's what is one of the best components of it is you see the story grow as the author grows, and as the
Yeah.
characters grow, and that's, you know, so don't be too hard on yourself because it is good work.
Yeah, I mean, I say that all the time. It's like, one day I'm gonna redo Reaper book one, and I always kind of get the same like advice back. It's like, no, don't, just keep going. We need to like get more
Yeah,
books out, and probably right to a degree. The thing that I always hyper fixate on is first impressions, because that's how you get like new readers, is you give them a really good first impression.
yes.
And obviously I'm gonna really overthink book one because of that exact thing.
Uh, and that's also a good, that's actually a good point you brought that up because that's another great aspect of a magazine. Every issue is a first impression, every issue. So you can, the current issue, once we get, a year and get a real good backlog, there's not a lot of people that's going to be buying every single issue. But when they buy the current issue, they'll see where Reaper is at, or where Holy Ark is at, where Bloody Hell is at. And then they can go back and really see, okay, there's some growth here. And, they can really dive into it. So that's another component of like, it's always, multiple different ways of first impressions. Omnibuses, master editions, that's a whole nother, hardcovers, that's another first impression. Compiling more work, so that way it's not just volume one standing alone, but you have two, three, four in one. Technically, just rebranded as, technically it's just a reprint, but it's a hardcover volume one. That's a first impression as well. Um, so yeah, and then of course if you really want to go back and down the line, then you could just redo it, I guess. But I don't recommend it.
Yeah, no. Everyone's probably right. I overthink everything. That's my character flaw.
And just is it Ichabod or the main character? How do you pronounce it?
Oh, Ichabod.
Ichabod. So
That's right.
I thought, yeah, I thought Ichabod was interesting. I thought he has a cool design. I think it is the most, well, what caught me first was definitely the soul aspect of uh, them being kind of like a drug. That's kind of subtlety, but that was pretty dope. But also the Reaper, the Grim Reaper kind of, you know, it's not really a trope, but I guess it could be a trope. The Grim Reaper aspect is not. You're taking a whole new approach upon it. It's not, your typical Grim Reaper. It's you're taking more so the. It feels a little bit like Fate. Some of the. It's more of a depiction and of you're taking like mythology and you really just it bringing a whole new kind of approach to it. And I like that. I like the aspect. The Grim Reaper aspect was subtle,
Right, yeah.
and in
I
the
sort of
dialogue,
made
it
it
sounds.
more like a job rather than
Yeah, and it was in the dialogue a couple of times. That was pretty funny. I thought, what exactly? I'm trying to think exactly what he said or what was said. I think it was something like the Reapers are grim or something. You did a cool twist that was memorable. Um, but yeah, I read a lot of work, so I have to reread it.
yeah. Well, I am glad that you enjoyed it, of course.
Yeah, and the production as well is very professional. The production quality. Now, that's also another reason why I'm going to stress Kindle Direct Publishing. You definitely look into it for cost effectiveness. Um, you know, right now where the industry is going, uh, Amazon is just a Amazon is the number one in the world in terms of online marketplace for books and then for retail in general. Um, so Amazon is, I think that's going to be a game changer. As the more we flood that Amazon market with more and more good work and really bring the readers there. I think that'll be, and then again, $0 to upload, and then of course you pay for your author copies or whatever. And if you want to go to a convention, you can pay for those, but you get it. for print cost instead of whatever mainstream publishers are costing or independent publishers are costing. Which I've tested it out. It's a lot of money back and forth shipping. It can be it can put a pressure on the author in terms of upping the price, and then that puts a pressure on and barrier to entry for the reader. So I think Amazon is just in terms of quality, it's great. Efficiency is great, and I'm going to continue to preach it and really try and innovate it. I have some YouTube videos as well going over the actual structure of how it should be done, so that way nobody goes through the same kind of hiccups I go through or I went through in terms of the formatting and really getting that perfect medium of okay, this is manga production because newsprint is what they utilize for novels and traditional kind of book format. So it just fits perfect with the manga aesthetic.
Perfect. That actually does bring up another interesting question. Do you have any conventions planned for this year?
Oh no,
Bringing monthly shonen maybe?
no, not this soon. I did one convention and it blew my pockets out.
Oh,
So
really?
it set me back. I think the convention circuit is not I don't think it's efficient for the most
Mm,
part. If you're trying to make a profit. Now, if you're just going to market or you're going to just because I do have some conventions planned, but I'm not going to table. I'm going to actually, sell the work to editors. Like Eric Stevenson is someone I'm trying to find and look for in terms of pitching the magazine and pitching the work to regarding Image Comics in terms of just being an imprint to a label, a publisher like that. Other than that, artists that I want to kind of get feedback from. But in terms of tabling, it's too much. It's going to set me back. And unless now, this is one way I thought that maybe I can do it would be doing a campaign, GoFundMe campaign, and allowing the readers to fund those ventures, those convention ventures. That would be the only way I kind of really take the time out and really do it because it's not sustainable. Most conventions, big conventions, most of the people attending aren't going there to buy books. They're going there to have a good time, going there to
mm.
walk around and party. Now, if it's a book fair, that's a different story.
Sure, sure. That's fair. I would think that you would do like pretty good at conventions because you could, you're an actually talented artist and you could sell original art and you could have people like commission you at the table. A lot of people do that, and they really make bank doing those like at table commissions and everything.
It's possible, but not within this for year one. Um, you
Sure,
know,
sure.
uh,
It's something to think about for the future, maybe like a way to make it more cost efficient for you and because that's something simple you can do is just bring your markers and some paper and like offer, I'll do your blank sketchbook or whatever.
yeah. No, I have nothing. I don't really have nothing against it, but it's just it's got to be. Also, just getting into these conventions are very difficult. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I tried to get into San Diego Comic Con just to attend as as just a regular ticket, just to attend to find again Eric Stevenson. I'm on the hunt. I'm gonna find you. Um, but it's difficult to get into these conventions. So just to table, you have to be ahead of the game or have a connection. I spoke with I have a mentor that's published through Penguin Random House, Jose. He's the author of it's a children's book. Get the title. Damn it, I'm bad with names right now. I have so many that I'm creating right now, so I'm bad with names. But he's given me a lot of insight on the convention circuit and just get into the mainstream market, because Penguin Random House Graphics. It's I think, the largest book publisher in America, uh, if not one of the largest for sure. Um, but so he gave me some insight on just how conventions work and a lot of in terms of finding these editors A lot of them just go to the after parties. So I have some addresses I will be going to, in terms of these parties, just to find this editor. Not to party like most of these creators do. I'm not going to the party and kiss ass. I'm going there to sell my work to an editor and a publisher about business. So, you know, that's, but those circles, there's actual places and circles. It's very tight niche. So he gave me a lot of insight on that and heads
That's
up
good.
on a lot of
Yeah.
the horror stories that he's kind of experienced. So in Hollywood, so there's lots of them.
All right. Well, I guess it does also like depend on where you're going. Of course, a lot of the conventions that we go to are much smaller. Like we don't, I guess we don't shoot for like their super expensive ones where it's like $1,000 a table or anything like that, because that's just, we don't need any of that nonsense. But you can still get like a pretty good crowd when you're going to the smaller ones that are a little bit more affordable, and the people there are very supportive of indie creators, especially, and it
We'll
really,
see.
it's uplifting to see.
Hopefully that's always a goal. So hopefully it is. I know for sure what you're talking about. You're talking about a lot of the more local ones. So definitely, um, my first convention was a local convention, and I did a lot of people, really like my work, but my work itself also holy art. And this is one of the reasons why I've started to kind of branch out and started to craft more stories. Is because it's not kind of all age friendly. So it's
Of course, yeah.
I had a lot of a lot of kids come up to my work, and I couldn't really had to be cautious of what I showed them. So
Definitely, for sure, yeah. Well, we are approaching the end of the stream at this point, but we can, you can tell people where they can find you, and where they can find, of course, the Young Wavy, the monthly Wavy comic
yeah,
magazine.
I would say just hold tight for the viewers. I didn't come on to really promote. I just came on to really talk with you. This is our first time talking, so Young Wavy the artist. You just look it up, Google it, whatever, and I'll try and be back, and definitely, in terms of our collaboration with Trish and Burning Star Comics, you'll definitely see me again, and we'll be making moves. So uh, yeah, just thank you for having me. I just came on here to really kind of talk with you.
Well, I did leave a link in the description where people can go follow you on X. So everybody go there, go give him a follow, go support his work. And thank you for coming on, of course. It was, I
Absolutely,
think it was a good conversation. We got to talk about,
absolutely.
the state of things and plans going forward. I hope 2026 is a good year for you.
Okay, and next, I kind of also want to throw this out there. I will be doing a video kind of series interviewing creators. So I definitely want to interview you and have an actual, about the work. So, kind of do that. And I'll be
That
interviewing
sounds great.
the entire roster. Once your Reaper Chapter One debuts, the entire roster I'm going to be interviewing, one by one, and I think that's going to be another kind of way of building. That'll be a marketing in a way of marketing strategy. One of the first.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something like simple that you can just do because, you're just having conversation with a creator and talking about their work, and, doing something like this, it's a very simple way of promoting stuff and making it authentic too. I really like the authentic, genuine conversations that go back and forth like this rather than the very, strict
Yeah.
question answer, don't say this type of interviews. They have all
Uh,
those rules. Don't like those.
oh yeah,
Thank you for the
definitely.
donation to Gabriel Mon. Great stream. Thanks, man.
I think that may be the Gabriel that I just, um, you know, uh, started talking to. Maybe might be a
Maybe,
different one.
maybe.
Yes, he might be in the Discord.
But yeah, thank you, everyone. Go check out the monthly Shun Wavy. Go check out Young Wavy, the artist.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you another day, perhaps on his channel.
Yep, yep,
All
definitely.
right. And what else?